Coming back to inner city from suburbs, what is like the trigger? What do you think is the trigger?
The trigger is education.
Education.
Education and entertainment, these two things.
Okay.
The education universities are still mainly in the cities themselves, and entertainment, of course, centralized. And it's education and entertainment which attracts young people back to the city.
But even in some German cities, well, Japan, in the case of Japan, they made a law to locate these universities to suburban areas.
Even a law.
Yeah, law, actually. Well, they changed the law in 1998 or 2000, about that time. But before that, they couldn't, even though they wanted to. University cannot extend their campus in the inner city. So they built a lot of like suburban campus.
This is very. In Germany, the technical faculties which need big factory space and so on, they went to the fringe of the city. Munich too, you have the universities proper you have in the center, but you have the extension, the natural sciences and technical faculties you have. You have but rather near, but in the suburbs.
I think that also the case maybe in Japan is now it's not probably a college student, but students go to middle school or like high school. There are a lot of like good high school within the city. So, and they're usually private school, and you cannot really go out to suburb because the commuting time for those children
is too long. You have to live in the city. So
we are kind of forced to live in the city. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think that's a kind of like peculiar case for maybe.
That's peculiar, yeah. But the other case, I think, that young people are looking for a kind of urban life, especially if many of them have kind of extended young life. They marry late, get children late. I don't know if this. I think that's in Japan the case.
The case in Japan as well.
So they have a long period of courting and so on, and this for this period of life, the inner city is very attractive, and if they are able to pay for it, they like to stay in larger numbers. So the quality of the traditional qualities of the old city of mixture and entertainment and education is again a very attractor to young people, and of course for old people as well. Old people tend to sell their properties in the suburbs to go to the city. And there's one problem with the suburbs, that the suburbs in many cases get older, the children have gone away, the husband has died, and in many houses there's only one old woman left. And this is already a problem in many suburbs in Germany.
Oh, even in Germany?
Yeah, even in Germany. So they have difficulties in selling their houses because they're not so attractive anymore, the old houses. And so quite a number of old people and couples try to get a small flat in the city where they have more services for medical services and restaurants and so on, and entertainment. So this makes, I think, in an aging society, the city center becomes, for many people, or quite a part of the old sector of the population, it gets very attractive.
Do you think there's any relevance with the automobile? Because
yeah.
The suburb was designed to...
Exactly, there's much relevance. There is a trend in Germany, I have no figures and I'm not a specialist in that, but there's right that there is a trend in Germany that the car loses in symbolic importance, symbolic meaning. It's not so longer a status symbol. And young people make their license much later than before, or they don't make any license, driver's license.
Really?
So the car loses in practical and symbolical meaning.
Even in Germany?
Even in Germany.
This is the country that produces Porsche.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Of course, this is not a very overwhelming trend, but at least you can observe it. And this helps, of course, the inner cities as a
Yes, sure does, yes.
And in many cities, the car traffic is heavily restricted already. Here in Munich, for example, the lorries are not allowed to cross the city anymore. They have to go around. The big lorries. Yeah. And more new housing estates do not build so much garages anymore because people have less cars, and the public transport is gaining very much in users, in clients in Germany. But this was always the case in Japan. That public transport always was very strong. But this is in Germany it was also strong. But now it gets stronger and stronger.
I think probably difference is federal state is trying to build a road still.
That's here the same.
Yeah. Oh, here same.
Here the same. Of course, the car industry has enormous political influence. Of course. Of course. Yeah, but the people in the cities, they use less cars than years before. And of course, things like car sharing and these things grow. So people don't have their own car, many people their own car anymore, but they lease a car if they need it. And these are all, of course, trends which improve the quality of life in the city.
In the city, yes, and probably lose in suburbs.
Yeah. Nobody can say if this trend will last for how many years, or if it's really a stable trend for many years for the future. But just now it looks like that, and it's supported by the communities by ever more restrictions to private cars in the city.
But car traffic will be much worse in the city because of those policies.
Of course. Yeah. So, but the quality of life is rising because of less emissions, less noise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Is it also like bicycle is?
Bicycle becoming more and more attractive. And the cities build more and more special tracks for bicycles, especially in Munich also, but there are two cities in Germany which are the leading cities. This is Erlangen and Münster. Erlangen is near here, and Münster is in the north. They have the highest degree of cycle use in the general traffic pattern. But now every city is trying to improve the conditions for cycling because cycling is growing also very quickly. And this again I think is part of quality of life in the cities. It's of course also part of the health movement of jogging and all that. So the combination of the quality of health and quality of traffic.
Okay. So why do you think the car has lost this attractiveness or charm?
I don't drive myself. I have no license and I never had a car. So, but my wife has a car and she's an excellent driver. I think there are several reasons. One reason is that it becomes more and more expensive to drive a car. Now, gasoline, as you know, costs €1.40 or 50 or so. That's very expensive. And the other cause is that it's more and more difficult to go by car in the city because you don't find any parking place anymore. And this is a political
So they
will to do that.
They decrease the parking space
Yeah.
intentionally.
Intentionally, yeah.
Okay.
To improve the quality of life in the city.
Is that the case in Munich or other cities?
Also, yeah.
Other cities?
Nearly every city does it now. It's a general trend. I think in all Europe.
All over Europe.
In Paris, they have restricted the car use very much, but now they have offered free cycles. In Paris, you find, in certain distance, you find a rack with about 20 free cycles, which you just take, and then you pay, I think, by internet or something. Yeah, so I think this is a general trend in European cities which contribute to the attraction of the inner city. And of course also the love to the old European city, to the 19th century, which is very attractive now also for young people. The old city parts, which are now restored sometimes very beautifully, they contribute to the taste of many people trying to get back. It's very popular to have a flat built in the 19th century.
But the inside is quite
modernized. Yeah. So I think there's a number of factors which make the inner city more and more attractive for young people and for old people. It might be that families with young children still prefer to live in the suburbs, but this sector of the population is shrinking. Old people is growing, young people is growing, is also shrinking, but at least it's still rather.
How does immigrants?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm not a specialist in immigration cities, but the immigrants, because of their low income, they are mainly forced to take the cheapest sector of dwellings. And the cheapest sector of dwellings is now that all the older quarters of the 19th and early 20th century are renewed. It's the social housing of the 60s. And this is a problem, that these big settlements from that time become more and more immigration suburbs, immigrants settlements.
And they don't have strong attachment with the rest of the society. So
they are isolated. Of course, there are exceptions in Cologne. And the Turkish people are there since the 50s, so they are really part of the population. And they have certain areas in the central city which they have more or less completely occupied. You think you are in a Turkish city.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And this is attractive also for people who like to shop or to eat a little bit exotically. These areas contribute to the attraction of the city as well, like Chinatown in New York or something like this.
I was also thinking about when you talk about this Turkish immigrants in the inner city. I was thinking about Hispanic people in like American cities. They tend to be not in suburbs, economic reasons as well. But they kind of, when they have money, they don't go out further in suburbs, but try to create these kind of urban.
They are urban people. Yes. They have an urban culture. They brought an urban culture to their immigration country.
I see.
These are a few facets of why the inner city becomes, in a way, more attractive compared to the suburbs.
So I understand, like the car use, which first attract people to live in suburbs.
Yeah.
This car itself has lost its charm.
Yeah.
Especially maybe with the symbolic meaning
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the case.
It, of course, for many people, it still has this meaning, but it's not generally the case. And the trend, even especially with young people, is contrary. Yeah.
But also, I think, well, this is kind of my opinion, but suburbia is like the result of outcome of this really marketing strategy. And in Japan or in America, I understand they market really good. They try to sell this,
And of course, it's a result of the car.
Yes.
Yeah. And as long as gasoline is cheap in America, it's still cheap. This will still last for a time, but not forever, as we know.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah. So this will be interesting, how the suburbs will develop in future. I think in Japan you have quite an old tradition in developing high-density nodes in the suburbs around the stations.
Yes, we do, yes.
And this helps, of course.
This helps. Okay.
Yeah, and I think in your suburbs you had much less car use than in Europe or even in America. Yeah. Yes, I remember that even the suburbs were quite well served with public transport.
But since maybe it really functioned better in like 1970 or 1980, because the driving around by car, it was still inconvenient despite it's in suburbs. But now there's a lot of like highway networks now, so it's actually,
it's improved.
It's actually more convenient to drive than use public transit.
This is a.
Transit is losing because.
Really? Because then you have another.
So
it's slightly in history. You have a slightly. Shift. Shift. What we have experienced 30 years ago, you are now experiencing in a way.
Yes, that's
in that suburbs. Yeah.
Yes. So it's now kind of very difficult to live in suburbs without a driver license. Which was not a case. But interestingly, my students, as you have mentioned with German students, my Japanese students, they don't like to have this driver license.
Yeah, the same.
They're not willing to.
The same.
It's same, yes.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Some of them lives in suburbs. So when you say urban entertainment, I kind of understand, but to just clarify, what is like the things that we are looking for in urban entertainment?
Entertainment is, now I'm 80, so I have no real connection to the young scene, but what I hear, what my grandchildren tell me, it's a club scene which seems to be very attractive. The club scene, and this is moving every time and finds different ways. So there are completely new forms of entertainment for young people, which seems to be very attractive.
We cannot have club in suburbs.
Yeah, but that's not the milieu. A club in a suburb has no basis. A club needs the dense and historic and a little bit dirty atmosphere, I think.
Dirty, more like okay.
At least in Berlin, these areas which they're thriving with clubs and attracting young people.
Is they're trying to go for cleaner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly. That's not interesting for young people anymore. And as they marry later and get later and less children, so they can stay much longer part in the city, and the old people get older and older, and they try, as I told you, and they need, I think, the services of the city. And therefore the land values and house values in many suburbs go down, as you told from Japan.
Do you think that the bar would be also like bar or cafe?
Yeah. I think the club scene, I connect to restaurants and bars.
Okay.
And so this seems to be very important. It might be already also stimulated by the electronic media, I'm not sure. Yeah. But I think the electronic media will change the relation of the young people, and they get older, to space in the city. I have the theory that this kind of pilot system, electronic pilots in the cars or on your handy or anywhere, this will lead with young people that they lose the ability to orient themselves naturally, to have an inner representation of the map of their own environment. They don't need that anymore. And they just do that. And I think this is a loss in cultural abilities.
Yes.
I think to orient yourself with in your head, perhaps with a map, but even then you need some kind of representation to use a map. This is something which is quality of education. But now people don't need it anymore. They just look on the...
Or even like car, they tell you where to go.
Yeah.
So you don't...
Yeah, I have my wife has a daughter from her first marriage, and she sometimes just has a pilot in the car, and she doesn't know at all where she is.
Yes.
She's relying on that. I think this is another interesting phenomenon. And I think this kind of electronic media will change the relation to the urban space quite a lot. In Germany, we now have a new kind of urban games that by flash mobs, by getting people together, and then they play together in a certain area, and they have some kind of game, some hide and seek, and to find something, and it's interesting. So on the one hand, the computer will weaken the sense of space, as we just talked about. On the other hand, it opens up new dimensions. And I think if we talk about qualities and attractiveness, then we have to talk about these dimensions which will become much stronger. We have the first generation of young people who have grown up with these media. It's a very young development. And I think at least we have to take it into account that we might have city dwellers who have a complete different inner conception of the city they are living in. This is pure speculation. I don't any research on that, but it must be like that. And what I observe with the young people, with my own grandchildren, it's what happens, even my own children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is, again, I think, one facet of the attractiveness or the quality of urban life, that how people orient themselves in the city and if they have an emotional relation to their own city. I think this emotional relation is very important. If people are asked to take responsibility and care for their environment, then they have to have an emotional relation. Otherwise, it's just cold technical tools.
So how people harness this emotional attachment to the city? There probably are variables, but for example.
I think one of the most important things is people have an active relation to the city. That they use it, or they can even change it in parts. They can plant a tree or can do something with it. I think this is the most important
Probably
tool to foster an emotional relation. And of course, knowledge of the city. Knowledge of if you have good guided tours and you connect these guided tours to literature or to art. And I think there are many ways to strengthen the emotional relation. But I think this emotional relation is very important. I think if people have just only an instrumental relation to their own city, I think it's not very bearable. You can't put much load on this kind of pure technical relation. You need a kind of emotional relation.
And also it's probably correct to assume that walking or bicycling.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think if you have a much closer central relation to the city if you walk or bicycle. You're quite right. This is if you go down in the metro, you have no relation at all.
Yes. Okay. When I was in Leipzig, I heard like there's a lot of Spanish immigrants coming in because Spanish economy is kind of like broke.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They said they like to come to Berlin and Leipzig, even though there's no jobs there.
Yeah.
And the researcher who I talked said she did some kind of interview to these people, and they said it's the image.
Yeah, it's the image. Yeah.
But I don't really know. I mean, Berlin, I could kind
Berlin
of...
has, of course, an enormous image. I didn't know that Leipzig has an image. I didn't know that.
So
but could be. Could be. Of course, Leipzig is a very urban city, I think. In East Germany, Leipzig is the most urban city we have. But that is already has an image in Spain that I didn't know.
No, that was very curious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would be interesting to us. But of course, I think the image, of course, is part of this emotional relation to a city, that you carry a positive image of a city. And then you see things more positive. And of course, now the advertising agencies try to work with the image, but I think this is, if you restrict yourself to the image, it's too little. Image must be the result of
I see. So suburbs, they couldn't really materialize this image, maybe.
Suburbs it's difficult to. And this, I think, one of the questions in the future with the shrinking population, what cities can do to create some kind of lasting image.
Lasting image.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is, I think, one of the questions.
Is there any kind of like good project in Munich to enhance this attractiveness of the inner city?
Yeah, one interesting project is renaturalization of the Isar River.
Isar River. Okay.
Yeah, it has been canalized. Yes, high water security. In the last years, it has been renaturalized. And this is very, very attractive. For
having this nature in this setting is
enormous important for the quality of the city.
I see.
I think this is one of the most successful activities in the city in the last years to make itself attractive.
Wow.
To show that there is a mountain river running through the city, and to provide opportunities for swimming and sitting and playing.
And people like that.
people like that very much.
Very much. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think this is one of the most successful things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really makes sense because history, as you said, or nature, they would give this attachment to
Yeah, attachment to the people, and it makes the city unique.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that cities become unique to be different from each other.
Mm-hmm. So I think you could say, use the term identity maybe?
Identity, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I hesitate to use it a little bit because this has been too much used.
Okay.
So I try to subscribe it with the uniqueness and difference.
Okay.
But it's identity, of course. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, this is what you wanted to.
No, this is what I wanted.
Yeah?
Very much. Yes. I'm quite impressed.
Okay.